My mother loves Christmas, as many people do. We used to take a routine walk around my neighborhood, and during Christmas time, while we were walking along our normal path, my mother felt around in her pocket and noticed that she had a Christmas ornament in it. Along our path, there were a series of pine trees unique to the area, and she decided to put an ornament on one of the pine trees. We walked away that night, and when we came back the next day, we noticed that somebody else had put an ornament up. Now, 10 years later, this is a tradition in our neighborhood. People anonymously put up ornaments, spreading Christmas cheer, promoting Christmas spirit, and also reflecting their love for Christmas. One small act revealed that my mother was connected to other people in a way through Christmas spirit. She was one of many who also identify with this holiday. Today I will discuss the saying, "Every pea helps fill the pod." My interpretation of this is that every individual is essential to a community. And I agree with this statement. One of the reasons that I believe this is that all characters have a role to play within a narrative or a story. You can also even see this in classrooms in which one student has a long absence and all the students notice when they're gone. We can even see this in nature when entire ecosystems change due to the eradication of a certain species. So for my first reason, I've seen this in my own favorite stories and fairy tales, and we can also see this in the Harry Potter series. Neville Longbottom is a character that is not presented as a hero or especially important or essential to the plot. He mostly provides comic relief. Inevitably, through all of the books at the very end of the series, we discover that Neville is the single most important player in defeating the Death Eaters. He's the one who decides to keep fighting and begin the war. He's able to wield the sword of Gryffindor and shows that his divinely guided power is special and essential to the plot. If we didn't have Neville Longbottom, there would be a totally different ending to this story, even though for so many years he's presented as somebody who's not essential. He's a part of a whole and he completes the entire narrative. Another place that I see this is in classrooms. I've known this in my own classroom experience, but I'm reminded of a YouTube video in which a bunch of preschoolers run up to one of their classmates who has been gone for a long time. The 5 and 6-year-olds all run up to him and they notice that he has a haircut. They want to know where he is. They tell him that they love him and that they miss him, and they give him a big hug. And they're 4 or 5, 6 years old. They don't have cell phones to communicate with him, and they've obviously noticed that he's been gone a significant amount of time. They have a lot of questions. They want reassurance as to where he's been. I think this is significant because we can see that once humans have participated in a group, their absence is noticed even at a very young age. We can also see this in nature and in different ecosystems. Before the 1990s, there was legislature that allowed anyone to kill as many wolves as they wanted. Wolves at the time, people thought that there were a nuisance to flock and livestock, and so they said, you know what, hunt them as much as you want. But there was an interesting thing that happened in Yosemite in which the mountains and river systems started to change. And it wasn't after 20 years of research that they realized that without these wolves, which were a keystone species, there was nobody to eat the rabbits, and the rabbits were eating all of the plants, which was degrading the soil. The soil was going into the rivers were becoming too much dirt and not enough water, and all the fish were dying, and numerous amounts of things were resulting from that. So after a lot of work and reintegrating the wolves into that area, the ecosystem is now flourishing and is healthier for it. So today I've talked about all the reasons in which we can see that every pea help fills the pod. We can see this in our own stories and narratives with characters that we don't necessarily consider main characters but end up being significant. We can see this in our own classrooms and also in nature and ecosystems. So when was the time that you thought maybe you were a lone wolf, but in reality you were part of a pack?